The arrival of the invaders. It was a quiet evening in the small village of Greenwood. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Children played in the fields, and the adults were busy with their evening chores. Life was simple here, untouched by the chaos of the bigger cities. But all that peace shattered in an instant. A loud, unnatural sound echoed across the sky. It was a deep humming noise that sent chills down everyone's spine. The villagers looked up to see enormous silver ships descending from the clouds. They weren't planes or anything humans had built. These were alien ships, smooth, metallic, and glowing with strange blue lights. The people froze in fear. Some dropped what they were holding, while others ran to find their loved ones. In the center of the village, an elderly man named Jonas whispered, "They're here." The stories were true. The ships landed in the open fields near the village. As the dust settled, the doors of the ships slid open with a hiss. Out came the Turvok, an alien race that stood taller than any human. Their skin was dark and rough, almost like stone, and their glowing red eyes scanned the area with disdain. They carried weapons that looked too advanced for anyone on Earth to comprehend. The leader of the Turvok stepped forward. His voice was deep and commanding as he spoke through a translator device. "Humans," he said, "you are weak. You are defenseless. Your planet now belongs to us. Surrender or be destroyed." The villagers stood in silence, too scared to move or speak. The Turvok laughed at their fear. They had conquered countless planets across the galaxy, and to them, Earth was just another easy victory. But hidden among the crowd was a woman who did not look afraid. Captain Ilara, a former military officer, watched the scene unfold from the shadows. She had seen the reports about the Turvok before the global communication networks went down. She knew they were dangerous, but she also knew something the aliens didn't. Humans were far from defenseless. Ilara quietly slipped away from the group and headed toward an old barn at the edge of the village. It looked abandoned, but inside was a secret. Beneath the barn was a hidden bunker, a relic from an old war. Inside, there were weapons, supplies, and a small team of people who had been preparing for this moment. As she entered, the team looked up. Among them were Liam, a tech genius who could hack into almost anything; Sophia, a medic with nerves of steel; and Mark, a former engineer with a knack for building weapons out of scraps. They had been waiting for Ilara's signal. "They've landed," Ilara said, her voice steady. "The Turvok think we're weak. Let's show them how wrong they are." Liam grinned, already pulling up blueprints on his tablet. "Are we going for the drones, or do you have something bigger in mind?" "We start small," Ilara replied. "They need to think they're in control. But we'll give them just enough resistance to make them curious. Then we strike hard." Back in the village, the Turvok began rounding up the people, forcing them to kneel in the center of the square. The leader sneered as he spoke again. "Humans, you have 1 hour to decide. Surrender your planet, or face extinction." One of the villagers, a young man named David, tried to stand up. "You can't just take our home," he shouted. The Turvok leader aimed his weapon at David, ready to make an example of him. But before he could fire, a loud explosion rocked the area. The aliens turned to see one of their ships engulfed in flames. From the distance, small drones flew into view, each carrying a tiny but powerful explosive. They zipped around the aliens, dodging their attempts to shoot them down. Another explosion followed, taking out another ship. The villagers watched in awe as chaos erupted. For the first time, the Turvok seemed unsure. They barked orders at each other, trying to figure out what was happening. In the midst of the confusion, Ilara and her team moved silently through the village, planting more surprises for the invaders. Ilara's voice came through a small earpiece in each team member's ear. "Stay sharp. This is just the beginning. We need them to think this is random resistance, not an organized attack." As the explosions continued, the Turvok leader growled in frustration. Find whoever is behind this. He ordered his soldiers. They will pay for their defiance. Ilara watched from a safe distance, a faint smile on her face. The Turvok may have been powerful, but they didn't understand humans. They didn't know that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in their weapons or technology. It was in their determination to protect what they loved, no matter the odds. The first sparks of resistance had been lit, and Ilara knew it was only a matter of time before the fire spread. The Turvok thought humans were defenseless. They were about to find out how wrong they were. The hidden strength of humanity. The Turvok leader paced furiously inside his command tent. The humans were supposed to be weak, cowering creatures. Yet here they were, resisting with unexpected cunning. 2 ships had been destroyed, and his soldiers reported strange traps in the village that delayed their advance. Something wasn't adding up. Meanwhile, in the hidden bunker beneath the old barn, Captain Ilara and her team were hard at work. The room buzzed with energy as they prepared for the next stage of their plan. A large holographic map of the village and surrounding areas flickered in the center of the room. Ilara studied it carefully. "We've bought ourselves some time," Ilara said, her voice calm but firm. "But time isn't enough. We need to hit them where it hurts before they regroup." Liam, the tech genius, leaned back in his chair, spinning a tiny drone between his fingers. "We've got plenty of toys to keep them busy," he said with a smirk. "But if we're going to do real damage, we need to bring out the big stuff." Sophia, the medic, raised an eyebrow. "You mean that project? The one we haven't even tested?" Ilara nodded. "Guardian." The room fell silent for a moment. Guardian was a secret project that had been buried after an international treaty banned its use. It was a massive AI-controlled defense system capable of turning the tide of any battle. The problem was, it had never been activated. It existed only as a blueprint and a collection of parts, hidden away for decades, until now. Mark, the engineer, broke the silence. "It's a gamble, Ilara. If it works, we might scare them off. If it doesn't, we're toast." Ilara met his gaze. "We don't have a choice. The Turvok think we're just ants they can crush. We need to show them we're more than that." The team got to work. Liam hacked into the old military archives to retrieve the codes needed to activate Guardian, while Mark rummaged through boxes of equipment to find the necessary components. Sophia prepared the bunker's medical supplies, knowing the fight ahead would be brutal. As they worked, the ground above them shook. The Turvok were closing in. Their soldiers were combing through the village, searching for any signs of resistance. One of the villagers, an older woman named Clara, approached the Turvok leader with trembling hands. "Please, we are just farmers," she pleaded. "We don't know anything about the explosions. Spare us." The Turvok leader sneered. "Farmers, you say? Then where are your tools? Your animals? Your fields look untouched by labor." Clara hesitated, her eyes darting toward the barn in the distance. The leader followed her gaze and signaled to his soldiers. "Search that barn," he commanded. In the bunker below, an alarm blared. A small camera feed showed Turvok soldiers approaching the barn. Ilara cursed under her breath. "They're onto us. Liam, lock the hatch. Mark, how long until Guardian is operational?" "Not long," Mark replied, sweat dripping from his brow as he connected wires to a glowing core. "But we need more time." Ilara turned to Sophia. "You're with me. We'll hold them off." Sophia nodded, grabbing a compact plasma rifle from the wall. "Let's give them something to remember us by." The 2 women exited through a hidden tunnel that led to the forest behind the barn. From there, they could see the Turvok soldiers approaching. Ilara signaled to Sophia, and together they began setting up traps. Tripwires that triggered small but effective explosives, and EMP devices that temporarily disabled the aliens' advanced equipment. As the first wave of Turvok soldiers entered the barn, they were met with a series of loud explosions. The barn collapsed in on itself, trapping several of the invaders beneath the rubble. The others turned to retreat but were caught in the EMP field. Their weapons sputtered and died, leaving them vulnerable. Ilara and Sophia emerged from the shadows, firing precise shots at the disoriented aliens. It wasn't long before the remaining soldiers fled back toward their leader, their confidence shaken. Back in the bunker, Mark let out a triumphant shout. "It's ready. Guardian is online." The holographic map flickered again, and a new figure appeared. A towering humanoid machine with glowing blue lines running along its metallic body. Its voice, deep and calm, filled the room. "System online. Guardian standing by for orders." Ilara and Sophia returned just as the bunker's defenses began to hum with energy. The team stood together, staring at the towering machine before them. It was both terrifying and awe-inspiring, a testament to humanity's ingenuity and determination. Ilara stepped forward. "Guardian, your mission is simple. Protect humanity and eliminate the Turvok threat." "Command acknowledged," Guardian replied. Above ground, the Turvok leader watched as the barn lay in ruins. His soldiers were battered, and his ships were damaged. But before he could issue his next order, the ground shook again, this time from something far more powerful. From the forest emerged Guardian, its glowing eyes locking onto the Turvok forces. The leader's confidence faltered as the machine raised its arm, a massive cannon forming from its metal plates. The Turvok thought humans were defenseless. They were about to learn the truth. The first strike. The Turvok leader, General Kravik, stared at the towering machine that emerged from the shadows of the forest. Guardian stood over 20 feet tall, its frame gleaming with an otherworldly light. Its movements were smooth, almost graceful, as it stepped into the clearing. The blue lines running along its body pulsed rhythmically, as though it were alive. General Kravik felt something he had not experienced in decades. Unease. "What is that?" he growled, turning to his second in command. "It is not of their time," the subordinate replied, his tone uncertain. "This technology, it's ancient but advanced. We must eliminate it before it destabilizes the mission." Kravik sneered, masking his unease. "Destroy it." The Turvok soldiers sprang into action, their weapons lighting up the night with streaks of red plasma. The beams struck Guardian's metal frame, but they fizzled out harmlessly against a shimmering energy shield. The machine didn't falter. Instead, it raised its massive arm, which unfolded into a cannon with a low, ominous hum. Inside the bunker, Captain Ilara and her team watched through a live feed from Guardian's optical sensors. "Let's see what you can do," Ilara muttered. Guardian's cannon fired a concentrated pulse of energy. The ground shook as the blast struck one of the Turvok ships, tearing through its hull like paper. The explosion lit up the night sky, and the shockwave sent nearby soldiers sprawling. Kravik barked orders, trying to rally his forces. "Fall back. Regroup. Target the energy core of that machine." But Guardian was relentless. It moved with a calculated precision, each step purposeful. Its targeting system locked onto the retreating soldiers, firing non-lethal projectiles that disabled their weapons and rendered them unconscious. It wasn't just a weapon of destruction, it was a protector. Back in the bunker, Mark couldn't hide his excitement. "It's working. The AI is adapting to their tactics in real time. This is incredible." Liam, however, was less optimistic. "Don't get too comfortable. They'll adapt too. We can't rely on Guardian alone." Ilara nodded. "Agreed. We need to keep the pressure on and make sure they don't figure out its weaknesses." Sophia spoke up, her voice calm but urgent. "We still have injured villagers in hiding. If the Turvok regroup, they'll use them as leverage." Ilara's expression hardened. "Then we make sure they can't." Kravik's counterattack. General Kravik was no fool. He knew the Guardian was formidable, but every machine had a limit. He regrouped his forces at the edge of the village and deployed a new weapon, the Turvok disruptor drone, a small, fast-moving device designed to scramble energy shields and leave enemies exposed. The drones zipped toward Guardian, weaving through the trees with alarming speed. Their mission was clear: Overload the machine's defenses. When the first drone made contact, Guardian's shield flickered for a moment. Kravik noticed and seized the opportunity. "Concentrate fire on that point," he roared. The Turvok soldiers obeyed, unleashing a barrage of plasma fire at Guardian. Sparks flew as the shield began to crack under the relentless assault. Inside the bunker, alarms blared. "Shield integrity is dropping," Liam shouted, frantically typing on his console. "If those drones keep hitting, we'll lose Guardian's protection." Ilara didn't hesitate. "Mark, can you patch the shield remotely?" Mark shook his head. "Not fast enough. It needs a hard reboot." "Then we buy it time," Ilara said. She grabbed her rifle and turned to Sophia. "You're with me. Liam, guide us through the field." Without waiting for an answer, Ilara and Sophia exited the bunker through another hidden tunnel. They emerged on the far side of the forest, flanking the Turvok forces. Using the terrain to their advantage, they moved silently, placing small EMP devices near the disruptor drones. Liam's voice crackled in their earpieces. "You've got 2 minutes before Guardian's shield fails. Make it count." Ilara smirked. "Plenty of time." Turning the tide. The first EMP went off with a bright flash, sending one of the drones spiraling out of control before it crashed into the ground. The Turvok soldiers turned in confusion, but before they could react, another drone was disabled. One by one, the drones fell, their systems fried by the EMP pulses. Guardian's shield stabilized, glowing brighter than before. The machine recalibrated its systems and resumed its advance. With the drones neutralized, it turned its attention to the remaining Turvok forces. General Kravik clenched his fists as he watched his carefully laid plan unravel. He activated his communicator, calling for reinforcements. "Deploy the air units. Overwhelm them." Above the village, more Turvok ships descended, their weapons primed. Guardian's targeting system locked onto the first ship, firing another energy pulse. The ship dodged the blast and retaliated with a missile barrage. For the first time, Guardian was forced to take a defensive stance, using its shield to block the incoming missiles. Ilara and Sophia, still hidden in the forest, saw their chance. Using their remaining explosives, they targeted the landing zones of the new ships, creating chaos on the ground. The Turvok forces struggled to maintain their footing as explosions erupted around them. A hard-won victory. After a grueling battle, the Turvok forces retreated once more, their confidence shattered. Guardian stood tall amidst the wreckage, its glowing eyes scanning the battlefield for any remaining threats. Inside the bunker, the team let out a collective sigh of relief. But Ilara knew this was just the beginning. The Turvok had underestimated humanity, but they would not make the same mistake again. As the team regrouped, a faint signal came through the bunker's communication system, a message from an unknown source. Ilara's eyes narrowed as she listened. "It's not over," the voice said. "They're calling for reinforcements, bigger, stronger, and faster than before. You need to prepare." Ilara turned to her team, her expression resolute. "We've proven we're not defenseless. Now we show them what humanity is truly capable of. A dangerous rescue mission." The atmosphere inside the bunker was tense. The faint signal that warned of incoming Turvok reinforcements hung heavy in the air. Captain Ilara stood by the holographic map, her mind racing. They had won the battle, but the war was far from over. Suddenly, an alert flashed on the console. Liam, the tech genius, frowned as he leaned closer to the screen. "Oh, we've got a problem. Big one." Ilara crossed the room in quick strides. "What is it?" Liam pointed to the live feed from a hidden drone circling the Turvok's main ship. "They've captured David and Clara. They're being held on the mothership as leverage." The room fell silent. David and Clara were two of the villagers who had been aiding the resistance. Clara was the one who had almost given away the bunker's location in a moment of panic, but she had also risked her life to keep others safe. Mark broke the silence. "If they talk, the Turvok will find this bunker. We can't let that happen." Ilara nodded, her jaw set. We're not leaving them behind. We're going to get them back. The plan. Ilara gathered her team around the map. The Tyrvok mothership is heavily guarded, but every fortress has a weak point. Liam, I need you to find it. Liam's fingers flew across the keyboard. After a moment, he grinned. Got it. There's a maintenance shaft on the underside of the ship. It's small, but it leads directly to their holding cells. Sophia frowned. Small means no guardian. We'll have to go in on foot. Ilara nodded. Exactly. Mark, I need a cloaking device for us. Something that can get past their scanners. Mark smirked. Already working on it. The plan was simple but dangerous. Infiltrate the mothership, rescue the captives, and sabotage their communication systems to delay reinforcements. They had one shot, and failure wasn't an option. The infiltration. Under the cover of darkness, Ilara, Sophia, and Mark approached the towering Tyrvok mothership. Each wore a lightweight suit fitted with Mark's experimental cloaking device. It wouldn't make them completely invisible, but it would distort their outlines enough to confuse the Tyrvok scanners. Liam's voice came through their earpieces. You're clear to move. Maintenance shaft is 100 meters ahead. The trio moved swiftly, their steps silent. The mothership loomed above them, its massive engines humming with power. Reaching the maintenance shaft, Mark quickly deployed a small cutting tool to open the hatch. Once inside, the team moved through the dimly lit corridors, guided by Liam's voice. Left at the next junction. Guards incoming. Stop now. They pressed themselves against the walls as a pair of Tyrvok soldiers passed by, their guttural voices echoing through the corridor. The cloaking devices held, and the soldiers continued without noticing them. Ilara exhaled slowly. Let's keep moving. The holding cells. After navigating a maze of corridors, they'd reached the holding cells. David and Clara were inside, their hands bound with glowing restraints. Clara's face lit up when she saw Ilara. You came, Clara whispered, tears welling in her eyes. Ilara knelt by the control panel. Of course we did. Hold still. Mark connected his device to the panel, bypassing the Tyrvok security system. The restraints clicked open, and the two captives were free. David stood shakily, his voice hoarse. They're planning to attack the village again. You have to stop them. We will, Ilara assured him. But first, we need to get out of here. The sabotage. As they made their way back to the maintenance shaft, Liam's voice came through urgently. Change of plans. The Tyrvok are gearing up for launch. You need to disable their systems now, or they'll be airborne in 10 minutes. Ilara cursed under her breath. Where's the communication hub? 2 levels up, Liam replied. But you'll have company. Ilara turned to the group. Sophia, take David and Clara back to the entry point. Mark and I will handle the hub. Sophia hesitated but nodded. Be careful. Ilara and Mark climbed to the 2nd level, their movements quick and precise. The communication hub was heavily guarded, just as Liam had warned. Ilara activated her cloaking device and whispered, We need a distraction. Mark grinned. Leave that to me. He tossed a small device down the corridor, and moments later, it exploded in a burst of light and sound. The guards rushed toward the noise, leaving the hub unguarded. Inside, Ilara and Mark worked quickly. Mark connected his equipment to the hub's console while Ilara kept watch. How long? She asked. Almost there, Mark replied. And done. The console sparked as Mark's device overloaded the system. The ship's lights flickered, and alarms blared throughout the corridors. We need to move, Ilara shouted. The escape. Reuniting with Sophia and the others, the group raced back to the maintenance shaft. The Tyrvok were in chaos, their communication systems down and their guards scrambling to regain control. As the team exited the ship, Guardian emerged from the forest, providing cover with its massive cannon. The mothership attempted to take off, but without functioning systems, it faltered and crashed back to the ground. From a safe distance, the team watched the explosion. David and Clara hugged each other tightly, their gratitude evident. Ilara turned to her team, a rare smile on her face, one victory at a time. But deep down, she knew this was just a small step in a much larger fight. The Turvok would return, stronger and more prepared. Humanity would need to be ready. The unleashing of Guardian. The morning after the rescue, the village was alive with activity. Survivors patched up damage from the previous battle, while Ilara and her team worked tirelessly in the bunker. The Turvok mothership lay in ruins, but everyone knew this wasn't the end. Reinforcements were coming, and they would be deadlier than anything they had faced so far. Ilara stood before the towering figure of Guardian, its metal body glowing faintly in the dim light of the bunker. The machine was a marvel of human ingenuity, but it wasn't yet at full capacity. How long until it's fully operational? Ilara asked, turning to Mark. Mark wiped grease from his hands, glancing at a console. We've restored 70% functionality, but the energy core is unstable. If we push it too hard, it might burn out, or worse, explode. Ilara's jaw tightened. We don't have a choice. If the Turvok launch an all-out assault, Guardian is our only chance. The Turvok planned their return. On a nearby ridge, General Kravik stood with his remaining forces, watching smoke rise from the wreckage of the mothership. His glowing red eyes narrowed. The humans had proven resourceful, too resourceful for his liking. Commander Tall, Kravik barked, turning to his second-in-command. Deploy the Warbringers. Tall hesitated. But General, the Warbringers are experimental. If they malfunction, they won't. Kravik snapped. These humans have embarrassed us for the last time. I want their so-called weapon destroyed, and their resistance crushed. Tall bowed, issuing the command. Moments later, a new fleet of Turvok ships descended from the clouds, each carrying massive mechanical beasts known as Warbringers. These towering constructs were the Turvok's answer to Guardian, heavily armored, armed with plasma cannons, and designed for total annihilation. Activating Guardian. Back at the bunker, alarms blared. Liam's voice came through the intercom. Ilara, you're going to want to see this. Ilara and the team rushed to the control room. The holographic map displayed the incoming fleet, with several red markers indicating the Warbringers. What are those? Sophia asked, her voice uneasy. Bad news, Liam replied. Each one is as big as Guardian, maybe bigger, and there are 5 of them. Ilara clenched her fists. Mark, we're activating Guardian now. Mark hesitated. Ilara, if the core fails. If we don't use it, we're already dead, she interrupted. Do it. Mark nodded grimly and flipped a series of switches. The room shook as Guardian powered up, its glowing lines growing brighter. The machine's deep, resonant voice echoed through the bunker. System optimization at 70%, scanning for threats. Ilara stepped forward. Guardian, we're under attack. Your mission is to protect humanity, engage the enemy, and neutralize their forces. Command acknowledged, Guardian replied. Its massive frame shifted as it prepared for battle. The clash of titans. The battle began in the open fields outside the village. Guardian emerged from the forest, its blue energy shield shimmering in the sunlight. Across the field, the Warbringers lined up, their red eyes glowing like embers. The ground trembled as they advanced, their mechanical legs pounding the earth. The first Warbringer opened fire, a barrage of plasma bolts hurtling toward Guardian. The machine raised its shield, deflecting the attack, and returned fire with its energy cannon. The blast struck one of the Warbringers, knocking it back but not destroying it. From the bunker, Liam monitored the battle. Guardian's energy reserves are depleting faster than expected. Those things are absorbing its attacks. Ilara's mind raced. Mark, can we modify Guardian's weaponry? Mark shook his head. Not mid-battle, but we might have another option. He pointed to a schematic of Guardian systems. The core can be overcharged for a short time, boosting its power. It's risky, but it might give us the edge we need. Ilara didn't hesitate. Do it. The overcharge. Mark activated the overcharge sequence, and Guardian's glowing lines turned from blue to white, radiating intense energy. The machine's voice boomed louder, almost alive with purpose. Core overcharge initiated. Power levels at 120%. Guardian surged forward, moving faster than before. It tackled the nearest warbringer, ripping off its weapon arm and hurling it into another enemy. The remaining warbringers fired simultaneously, their combined attack pushing Guardian's shield to its limit. Inside the bunker, warning lights flashed. Shield integrity is critical. Liam shouted. Come on, Guardian, Ilara whispered. Hold on. A desperate move. With its shield failing, Guardian switched to a more aggressive strategy. It used its massive hands to tear through the Warbringer's armor, disabling their power cores one by one. But the strain on its systems was evident. Sparks flew from its joints, and its movements grew sluggish. Finally, only one Warbringer remained. Guardian and the enemy machine faced off, both battered and barely functioning. In a last-ditch effort, Guardian overcharged its energy cannon, firing a blast so powerful it shattered the Warbringer's armor and sent it crashing to the ground. But the overcharge came at a cost. Guardian's core began to destabilize, emitting a high-pitched whine. From the bunker, Mark's face turned pale. The core is going critical. If it explodes, it'll take out the whole area. Ilara's heart sank. Guardian, can you contain the explosion? Guardian's voice, now softer, replied. Containment possible. Relocation required. Ilara understood immediately. You're sacrificing yourself. Mission priority. Protect humanity, Guardian said. Relocation commencing. The sacrifice. Guardian staggered toward the horizon, carrying its unstable core away from the village. The team watched on the live feed, their hearts heavy. Moments later, a brilliant explosion lit up the sky, shaking the ground beneath their feet. The village was safe, but Guardian was gone. The aftermath. As the dust settled, Ilara and her team emerged from the bunker. The villagers gathered around them, their faces a mix of relief and sorrow. They had won the battle, but the cost was high. Ilara stood in the clearing where Guardian had made its stand. It wasn't just a machine, she said softly. It was a reminder of what we're fighting for. Liam approached, holding a small device. I recovered its memory core. Maybe we can rebuild it someday. Ilara nodded, her resolve firm. We will, and when the Tarvok return, we'll be ready. The final battle. The village was quiet but tense, the air heavy with anticipation. The victory over the Turvok's Warbringers had been costly, and the loss of Guardian weighed on everyone. The villagers repaired what they could, fortifying the town with whatever scraps were left. But Captain Ilara knew this fragile calm wouldn't last. Inside the bunker, the team gathered around a flickering holographic map. Liam adjusted his headset, monitoring signals from the surrounding area. I'm picking up a lot of chatter, he said grimly. The Turvok reinforcements are almost here. They're bringing everything they've got. Ilara folded her arms, her expression hard. How long? Less than an hour, Liam replied. And this time, it's not just ships and soldiers. They've got orbital weapons. Mark let out a low whistle. Orbital weapons. They're going to level the village from the sky. Ilara's jaw tightened. Not if we stop them first. A desperate plan. The team worked quickly to formulate a plan. The Turvok's orbital weapons were controlled from a massive command ship stationed just outside Earth's atmosphere. If they could infiltrate the ship and disable its systems, they might stand a chance. We don't have Guardian, but we do have its memory core, Liam said, holding up the small device he had salvaged. I think I can integrate it into our systems to create a temporary AI assistant. It won't be as powerful, but it might give us an edge. Mark nodded. I've been working on retrofitting the drones with some of Guardian's old tech. They won't replace it, but they'll pack a punch. Ilara looked around the room. This is it. We hit their command ship, disable the orbital weapons, and take out their leader. If we fail, humanity falls. The assault begins. As the first Turvok ships descended on the village, Ilara and her team launched their drones, creating a diversion. The drones zipped through the sky, firing precise shots at the incoming ships. Explosions lit up the night, buying the villagers precious time to evacuate to safer ground. Meanwhile, Ilara, Sophia, Liam, and Mark boarded a stealth craft they had hastily assembled using parts scavenged from the wreckage of the Turvok mothership. The craft was cloaked, its engines humming softly as it ascended toward the command ship. Inside the craft, the salvaged AI activated, its voice a faint echo of Guardians. Temporary systems online, scanning for vulnerabilities. Sophia glanced at the flickering console. It's good to hear that voice again. The AI responded. Mission priority: protect humanity. Command ship targeting systems detected. Suggest immediate action. Infiltrating the command ship. The stealth craft docked on the underside of the massive Turvok command ship. Ilara led the team through a narrow airlock, weapons at the ready. Inside, the corridors were eerily quiet, the hum of alien machinery filling the air. Liam hacked into the ship's systems, bringing up a map. The control center is 3 levels up. We'll need to move fast. They'll detect us soon. As the team moved through the ship, they encountered resistance. Turvok soldiers appeared, their weapons firing streaks of red plasma. Ilara and Sophia took point, using their training to take down the enemies with precision. Mark deployed small explosive charges to block pursuit, while Liam worked to keep them on course. Disabling the orbital weapons. Reaching the control center, the team found it heavily guarded. Ilara signaled to Mark, who set up a makeshift EMP device. When it detonated, the Turvok's weapons and shields faltered, giving the team the opening they needed. Inside the control room, a massive console controlled the orbital weapons. Liam connected his device, uploading the AI to disrupt the Turvok systems. I need 2 minutes, he said, typing furiously. The room shook as more soldiers arrived, firing relentlessly. Sophia was hit, but she gritted her teeth and continued to fight. Just a scratch, she muttered, blood staining her sleeve. Ilara covered Liam, her movements sharp and focused. Hurry up, Liam. The AI's voice echoed. Orbital weapons disabled. Redirecting energy to core systems. Liam grinned. Done. Now let's get out of. A deep voice interrupted. General Kravik entered the room, his presence commanding. You humans never learn, he growled. Your resistance ends here. The showdown. Kravik towered over them, his armor glowing with an ominous red light. He carried a massive energy blade, its hum filling the air. Ilara faced him, her weapon raised. You've underestimated us before. Do it again, and you'll lose. Kravik lunged, his blade slashing through the air. Ilara dodged, firing a shot that glanced off his armor. Sophia and Mark joined the fight, but Kravik was relentless, his strength and speed overwhelming. In the chaos, the AI spoke. Energy core critical. Overload imminent. Ilara's eyes widened. What does that mean? The command ship will self-destruct in 3 minutes. Ilara made a decision. Liam, get Sophia and Mark back to the craft. I'll deal with Kravik. No way, Mark protested. We're not leaving you. Go, Ilara shouted. That's an order. Reluctantly, the team retreated, leaving Ilara to face Kravik alone. Ilara's sacrifice. As the countdown ticked down, Ilara fought with everything she had. Kravik was powerful, but she was faster and more resourceful. Using a stolen Turvok explosive, she managed to disable his armor, leaving him vulnerable. With seconds to spare, she activated the stealth craft's autopilot from her wrist communicator, ensuring her team's escape. Then she turned to Kravik. "You underestimated us. That was your mistake." The ship's core erupted in a blinding explosion, consuming everything in its path. The aftermath. Back on Earth, the team watched the explosion from a safe distance, their hearts heavy. They had won, but at a great cost. Sophia wiped a tear from her cheek. She knew what she was doing. She saved us all. Liam held up the memory core. "She's gone, but maybe not entirely." Mark nodded. "We'll rebuild. For her. For humanity." As the first light of dawn broke over the horizon, the villagers emerged from their shelters. They had survived. And thanks to Ilara's sacrifice, humanity had earned its place among the stars. Victory at a cost. The days following the explosion of the Turvok command ship were surreal. The village was quiet, too quiet, as the remaining villagers worked to rebuild what was left of their lives. The loss of Captain Ilara hung heavy in the air, her sacrifice fresh in everyone's minds. Yet, amidst the sorrow, there was hope. Humanity had won a battle no one thought possible. The return to the bunker. Liam, Sophia, and Mark returned to the bunker one last time. The place felt emptier without Ilara's commanding presence. The holographic map, once buzzing with activity, now flickered dimly, a silent reminder of the countless battles fought from here. Mark approached the console, where the Guardian Eye's memory core sat, glowing faintly. "This little piece of her plan is all we've got left," he said, his voice thick with emotion. Liam nodded. "And it's enough. Ilara wouldn't want us to stop. She'd want us to rebuild, to be ready for whatever comes next." Sophia, her arm still in a sling from the battle, stepped forward. "If we're going to honor her, we need to make sure this never happens again. No more hiding. No more running. Humanity has to stand united." A message from the stars. As they spoke, a sudden alert flashed on the console. Liam's eyes widened as he leaned forward. "We're receiving the signal. But it's not Turvok. It's something else." The signal played on the screen, displaying a series of symbols and patterns that seemed oddly familiar. The team exchanged nervous glances. "It's coming from deep space," Liam said, his fingers flying over the keyboard. "This isn't random. Someone, or something, knows what we did." Sophia frowned. "Are they friend or foe?" The signal ended abruptly, leaving a single image on the screen. A star map with Earth at its center. Beneath it, in human language, were 3 words. "Prepare for them." Mark's voice was barely above a whisper. "Who's them?" "The legacy of Guardian." With no time to waste, the team turned their focus to Guardian's memory core. If they could unlock its full potential, they might have a chance against whatever new threat was looming. Liam worked tirelessly to integrate the core into a new system, while Mark repurposed leftover Turvok tech to rebuild Guardian's frame. Weeks passed, and progress was slow. But one day, the bunker hummed to life. A familiar, deep voice echoed through the room. "System reboot complete. Guardian operational." The team froze, a mix of awe and relief washing over them. The new Guardian stood taller, sleeker, and more advanced than its predecessor. Its glowing blue lines pulsed with renewed energy. Sophia stepped forward. "Guardian, do you remember Ilara?" There was a pause, then the AI replied. "Ilara's sacrifice is logged. Her mission, protect humanity. Her legacy continues." Mark grinned. "Damn right it does." The world unites. News of the Turvok defeat spread across the globe, inspiring humanity in a way no one had thought possible. Governments set aside their differences, pooling resources to prepare for the unknown threat. Massive space stations were constructed in orbit, and Earth's brightest minds worked on advancing their technology. For the first time in history, humanity was united. Liam, Sophia, and Mark became leaders in the effort, sharing their knowledge and rallying people to the cause. The rebuilt Guardian became a symbol of hope, its image broadcast across the world as a reminder of what humans could achieve when they worked together. A new beginning. Months turned into years, and humanity transformed. The once fragile Earth now bristled with defenses, its skies patrolled by fleets of advanced ships. The villagers of Greenwood, once terrified farmers, had become part of the global effort, their small town now a hub for innovation. One evening, as the sun set over the village, Liam, Sophia, and Mark stood on a hill overlooking the horizon. Guardian stood behind them, its towering frame blending into the twilight. "Do you think they'll come?" Sophia asked, her voice soft. "They will," Liam replied. "But this time, we'll be ready." Mark chuckled. "Ready? We'll show them what humans are really made of." As the stars began to twinkle in the night sky, a faint glimmer appeared, brighter than the rest. The team exchanged glances, their hearts pounding with a mix of fear and anticipation. "They're here," Guardian said, its voice calm but firm. Ilara's words echoed in their minds. Humanity isn't defenseless. Not anymore. To the stars. The story ended where it began, with humans underestimated by the universe. But this time, they were ready to prove their strength, their unity, and their resilience. As Guardian led the charge toward the unknown, humanity stepped boldly into a future where they were no longer the hunted, but the defenders of their own destiny.